Welcome back to Ascending with Ashley. I'm Ashley. This is Awake, Bake, and Make, and I am currently working on, I'm starting this art project that I am doing for an MMIW event on May 7th. And I wanted to talk about MMIW a little bit. If you don't know, MMIW is Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. And so I thought we could talk about Indigenous folks here a little bit in the United States. And some of the things that are continuing in the, century plus long genocide against Indigenous people here in the United States. Okay, so there are 574 federally recognized Indigenous tribes here in the United States. I'm in Arizona, and there are 22 federally recognized tribes here in the United States. You may have heard of Emily Pike. Emily Pike was found here in Arizona, dismembered and in trash bags along the highway a couple months ago. And I just looked her up, and it looks like her family has filed a lawsuit. She was 14. And I feel like I'm bringing Emily up because a lot of the time when white women go missing here in the United States, like that chick whose boyfriend killed her, Gabby Petito, is that her name? She got so much press, and a lot of the times Indigenous folks are talking about how the press that missing and murdered Indigenous women get is, 0 to none. If it's not done at a grassroots level, it's not investigated by the local or federal, entities. And a lot of the times, this isn't just here in the United States, it's also something very large in Canada as well. And I know from what I've seen, there's a lot going on right now in Canada. I'm not sure what province, where there is like dumping, like the women's bodies are being dumped in landfills. So there's been a lot of, hang on. There's been a lot of organization in Canada, I know, again at a grassroots level. Remains of murdered Indigenous women found in Winnipeg landfill. This was just last month. Amnesty International has a campaign for Canada, search the landfills and return Indigenous women's remains home. Remains of another Indigenous woman murdered by a serial killer found at landfill. Serial killer is a pretty big, broad, swooping generalization, because I think what we need to talk about while we're talking about this is the root of the problem, which, from what I've heard, from what people are saying who are experiencing this or whose families are being impacted by this, it's a lot of these men camps for men camps. Okay, this is from Colorado pipeline man camps. So when there's these oil pipelines that are going in, the workers have these camps. So this has to do with resource extraction. It has to do with land back, and that's why land back is the large movement for land back. It's not just about supporting the environment, but it's also about how land is being colonized still by these man camps. So missing and murdered Indigenous women. So this is pipelinefighters.org if you'd like to go. The missing, I'll put some of the resources I'm using in the description box for you. The missing and murdered Indigenous women human rights crisis disproportionately affects Indigenous peoples in Canada and the United States, notably those in the First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and Native American communities. A corresponding mass movement in the U.S. and Canada works to, I'm pretty sure the Métis is a tribe that's split beyond the border of the United States and Canada. Like, it's on either side of the border. I could be wrong, but I do have a friend who is Métis and is reconnecting to her lineage, and from what I'm pretty sure, but anyway. A corresponding mass movement in the U.S. and Canada works to raise awareness of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, through organized marches, the building of databases, local communities, city council, tribal council meetings, and domestic violence trainings for police. MMIW has been described as a Canadian national crisis and Canadian genocide in response to repeated calls for Indigenous groups, activists, and non-governmental organizations in the Government of Canada under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau established a national public inquiry, the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls, in September of 2016. According to the inquiry's background, between the years of 1980 and 2012, Indigenous women and girls represent 16% of all female homicides in Canada. 16%. For 32 years? Okay. While constituting only 4% of the female population of Canada. Fuck. Damn. The inquiry was completed and presented to the public in June 3rd of 2019. From 2001 to 2015, the homicide rate for Indigenous women in Canada was almost 6 times as high as the homicide rate for non-Indigenous women, representing 4.82 per 100,000 population. In the U.S., Native American women are more than twice as likely to experience violence than any other demographic. 1 in 3 Native women is sexually assaulted during her life, and 67% of these assaults are perpetrated by non-Natives. The Federal Violence Against Women Act was reauthorized in 2013, which for the first time gave tribes jurisdiction to investigate and prosecute felony domestic violence offenses involving both Native American and non-Native offenders on the reservations. So that's one of the things that I'm starting to learn about and understand, is that because the reservations are their own governing bodies, for the most part, there's a lot of overlap and also a lot of loopholes on the land. So if someone were to commit a crime on the reservation, non-Native, it isn't punishable by the feds because it's not land governed by them, supposedly, even though the treaties and everything. So this is a really big issue happening here in the United States. Oh, here's man camps. Located on Indigenous territories away from the cities and often in close proximities to Indigenous communities, resource projects, so resource extraction, right? Like here in Arizona, there's a lot of uranium. The Navajo Nation just kind of, the president is going to be starting coal mining on the Navajo res. And so I think that one of the things that I've recently learned is that the reservations are beyond the state borders. So like the Navajo Nation is the largest here in the United States reservation, but it spans Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and what's the other one? Is it Wyoming? No, I think it's Idaho. But either way, it's beyond the state. So what I didn't know until very recently was that there's time zones, the time zones that we as Americans who do not live on the reservation, live by. A lot of reservations are cut in those spaces. So some people have to travel from the reservation into border towns. I live in a border town to the res. And people have time zone changes in their travels, which is so fascinating. I never even thought of that. So anyway, highly recommend, no matter where you are within Canada or the United States, more than likely anywhere in the world, there's been some sort of displacement that has happened to the Indigenous people that were there before us, right? So I think it's very important to learn about who comes before you and also recognize that people are still here, right? And I think that's the thing. A lot of people assume that Native Americans, especially right now with this current administration, a lot of people think that Native Americans are Hispanics, and there's a lot of interesting things that people are not understanding. And I mean, there's a lot of distinctions drawn when in all reality all of these folks are Indigenous. It's the white folks that aren't, okay? Point blank period. Brown folks are Indigenous. The borders came to them, crossed them. and then now they're living in that space of, you know, having to travel for work, having to, you know, travel through time zones, not to mention the violence that we're talking about. So just wanted to bring some awareness to this. What I'm going to be doing, you see these mirrors behind me. What I'm doing for this event is, there is I think May 5th is the day that people wear red to commemorate folks who have been murdered. But this is very much it's happening right now, right? It's a very active situation, so learn more about it, do what you can in your area, because again, you are on native land, no matter where you are. May 5th, and National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women is May 5th. It's a day dedicated to remembering and honoring the lives of Indigenous women and girls who have gone missing or have been murdered, and to raising awareness about the crisis of violence against Native women. The day is also known as Red Dress Day, which is a symbolic way to commemorate the issue, often by wearing red clothing or ribbons. So I'm doing a project for that event here in my area. It's actually the town over, but whatever. So I have all my red paints, and what we're going to be doing is I've been asked to decorate each mirror so that women can take selfies, and I'm going to be putting handprint borders around the border of the mirror, and then at the top we are doing affirmations. And I will read you the affirmations that I have been asked to put on here. So each mirror has its own affirmation, and then we're going to do a handprint pattern. So we have 6 mirrors altogether. We have I am strong, I am worthy, I am resilient, I am capable, I am sacred, and I am still here. So I am, I have shivers. I'm absolutely honored to be a part of this. I only have 3 mirrors so far. I am going to pump these out today. I think I'm going to be using this for the affirmations, and I might do that as like a border and then go in with black paint for the words. And I'm probably going to need more red paint, but I'm going to get started with what I have from Art Space, and see what I need to go after that. And so I was thinking I'm just going to mix all of these together. And I've been given permission to use Niall's hands as well, because as we know, this is not just about women, it's women and girls. And so Niall's little hands may be used. We'll see if he will cooperate or not. But yeah, it's a pretty simple project, but it's incredibly honorable to be working on this. And so I hope that this helped you understand, again, no matter where you are, this is an issue in the area for Indigenous folks, because remember, there are 574 federally recognized tribes, and so no matter where you are in these 50 states, you are on Native land, and this is an issue in your area. So think about that. If you are able to wear red on May 5th, please do, and please talk to other folks about it. Let people know. Have a good one.